finding meaning in the abyss. Or maybe it's a question of it finding you. This is the fifth in my video series on stories that re-enchant. So as I mentioned in, I think, my third video in my series on understanding men, I grew up in a violent home. By the time I got to college, I had post-traumatic stress, all kinds of stuff was coming up emotionally now that I was in a safe place. And I was really depressed. So an English teacher noticed that and saw it in my papers, and he said, you know, there's a novel you might want to read. So I picked up Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf at his suggestion, opened the book, and it starts out with a depressed man who's lonely, who is a seeker and doesn't know what he's seeking, and who's basically trying to decide if it's a good day to have an accident while shaving. And I thought, yeah, I can relate. So I kept reading. And he's disgusted by the politics of his day. They're all corrupt. The politicians are heading everybody into yet another war. He feels alienated, ostracized, doesn't know what to do with himself. Where's the meaning? The scientists are no help. They're saying everything's random. The religions that he grew up in aren't of any assistance to him. So he doesn't know what to do. So he's walking down this road one night, this dark road, and he sees a flicker of light on a wall, and he thinks, oh great, they've defaced this good old wall with neon. And as he's going by, a sign lights up, and it says Magic Theater. And he goes, huh. And he waits for a minute in this wet road. It just rained recently. And below it, another sign flickers, and it says, price of admittance, your mind. So he's intrigued, and he goes over to where the sign is, but he can't find the door. So he leaves. It's important that he can't find the door. He's not ready. He's not ready for the theater. What he doesn't realize at the beginning is that his dark night of the soul is a form of unconscious self-purification. He has to be in the abyss of meaninglessness to get rid of all these ideas and beliefs, and in terms of the work I do, stories, old guiding stories that don't serve him anymore. So eventually he sees the sign again and gets into the theater and enters. But one of the things that stuck with me from the novel is that you can't find the light unless you stand in the darkness long enough and get purified enough to be able to finally enter. Such an interesting image, and an important one, I think, for our time, when so many of us are seeking for we don't know what. A character in the novel at one point tells him, you're wanting to be on an adventure, on a journey, because that's what you're built for. But you're not being asked to be. You live in a culture full of people who like playing cards and drinking tea and wireless. So he has to be patient and wait until the adventure summons him. So I want to finish this by reading you something that Hesse added to his novel once it got popular, especially in the US. And this is the author's note, 1961. It's pretty short. He was noticing, well, I'll just read it actually. He says why he wrote it. So here's Hermann Hesse. Poetic writing can be understood and misunderstood in many ways. In most cases, the author is not the right authority to decide on where the reader ceases to understand and the misunderstanding begins. Many an author has found readers for whom, or actually to whom, his work seemed more lucid than it was to himself. Moreover, misunderstandings may be fruitful under certain circumstances. Yet it seems to me that of all my books, Steppenwolf is the one that was more often and more violently misunderstood than any other. And frequently, it is actually the affirmative and enthusiastic readers, rather than those who rejected the book, who have reacted to it oddly. Partly, but only partly, this may occur so frequently by reason of the fact that this book, written when I was 50 years old and dealing as it does with the problems of that age, fell into the hands of very young readers. But among readers of my own age, I also repeatedly found some who, though they were impressed by the book, strangely enough, perceived only half of what I intended. These readers, it seems to me, have recognized themselves in the Steppenwolf, identified themselves with him, suffered his griefs, and dreamed his dreams. But they have overlooked the fact that this book knows of and speaks about other things besides Harry Haller, the protagonist, and his difficulties, about a second, higher, indestructible world beyond the Steppenwolf and his problematic life. The treatise and all those spots in the book dealing with matters of the spirit, of the arts, and of the immortal men oppose the Steppenwolf's world of suffering with a positive, serene, superpersonal, and timeless world of faith. This book, no doubt, tells of griefs and needs. Still, it is not a book of a man despairing, but of a man believing. Of course, I neither can nor intend to tell my readers how they ought to understand my tale. May everyone find in it what strikes a chord in him and is of some use to him. But I would be happy if many of them were to realize that the story of the Steppenwolf pictures a disease and a crisis, but not one leading to death and destruction. On the contrary, to healing.